Get the fuck out of here! Go home! We don't want you here. We don't like your kind here. We only like people in blue cars around here. One more. Don't honk at me. Don't honk at me, asshole. The gate is open. Time to go through. Are you ready for what's on the other side?
Nope. Oh, God dang it.
I can think of several that have aged awfully for WWE. The Katie Vick angle was bad when it happened. It's even worse now. I look at it now and I'm just like...
Didn't Triple H, like, try to ream somebody in a coffin to make Kane mad?
Yes. Katie Vick. Like, that whole angle.
That's what you were talking about? Yeah, the necrophilia thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the first appearance of the Harlem Heat.
Yeah.
When they came out in chains.
Yeah. And...
Go find that footage.
Yeah,
Bet you can't.
Vince McMahon. Keep it up, mud.
Oh, yeah, the N-bomb.
Yeah, in front
Literal
of Booker
Vince
T.
There's plenty.
Yeah.
Choppy PP. That's another one.
Trish Stratus getting down and on her hands and knees and barking like a dog. In her lingerie.
The whole thing behind the Braun panties lingerie matches and stuff like that.
Evening gown matches.
Evening gown. I mean, there were just a lot of exposition and a lot of derogatory shit towards females and stuff. And it's a different thing. Like wrestling is theater. So if there are heels doing and saying things that are not meant to be cool, and it's meant to get heat on them and for you to hate them, I think it's one thing.
Yeah.
But they were pushing this in a celebratory manner and doing derogatory things to women and towards women.
Also, the Lita thing at like the WWE Times Square thing, where because of like, I forget what it was, but she was contractually forced into doing that appearance, and like in front of just like all these people showing out in lingerie and all that. And you could visibly tell she was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because she was just like so like she didn't mind like in the moment in wrestling, like doing stuff in the ring because it was part of her thing. But she was basically trotted out there like a show pony. Mm-hmm. And I keep in mind, I don't like what Lita did to Matt Hardy, but that's beyond the point. This is literally her being treated like just like a piece of beef.
Yeah.
That's it.
Terrible.
Yeah, awful. And all that being said, though, yeah, wrestling moments, right, WWE some have aged very horribly.
Horrible.
And WrestleMania has a compilation here of 10 of them. And let's see if any of the ones that we mentioned are in here.
Let's see.
Let's take a look and find out. Here we go.
The perception of certain WWE moments have changed as the years have gone by. While some segments seemed humorous 2 decades ago, in the modern day, they are seen as exploitative and offensive. And there were also those segments which were controversial when they took place, but WWE were at a point with their creative output where they didn't seem to care about the negative reaction or causing any controversy. Outside of offensive segments, WWE have notoriously made some creative decisions that have aged terribly. Join us now as WrestleMania looks at 10 WWE moments that have aged horribly. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new channel, WrestleMania Shorts.
Also one of the best banger intros.
That's pretty badass, yeah.
Number 10, Jared, the Subway Guy. The Subway Guy, known as Jared Vogel, had a number of appearances on WWE television. Most notably, he would guest star on an episode of Raw in 2012, and WWE believed this would lead to mainstream exposure, but over a decade after his guest star stint, it's likely that WWE will never mention Vogel's name ever again. In 2015, it was uncovered that Vogel had committed some heinous acts, and ultimately he was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in federal prison.
Should have been sentenced under the dirt.
Yeah, sentenced for life. Yeah, that what he did was just
horrific.
Awful.
Horrific.
Yes. And the people that helped him do it. They all deserve to go down.
What they are, search the guy's name. The WWE has smartly distanced themselves from Vogel, and on the WWE network, if his name is typed into the search bar, no results come up, which seems fitting for a man as despicable as Vogel. Number 9, Vince McMahon's racist comment to Sabu. WWE's relationship with Islamic-centered countries is well documented, yet if they saw one specific clip of Vince McMahon, they would have a ton of questions. During the revamped ECW in 2007, McMahon had an
do-rag Vince McMahon, like trying to act tough, and him being ECW. You know who had a brilliant idea that I think would have worked in the long run?
Who?
Interestingly enough, Shane.
Shane had a lot of good ideas for WCW and the whole situation.
But the whole thing with ECW is that it was edgy entertainment.
Yeah.
And putting a muzzle on your talent is really bad. Especially when you have people like Sabu, when you have people like Taz, when you have people like Rob Van Dam. Exactly. So, Shane had an interesting idea to make ECW a live online show that would not be tied down. They wouldn't be able to like show certain things, no hardcore nudity or anything like that, but they would be allowed to swear more, they would be allowed to show blood more, they would be allowed to be more edgy. And they could have cultivated an audience for that in the burgeoning online world, because this was back in 2008, 2009.
That shit would
when
be
it just started. It would have been massive. It would have been its own brand, and thus, in terms of viral clips that would have been happening in the early days of YouTube, they probably would have had to taper down now or move to a different platform now, but they would have the audience enough to be able to do that. But in those early days, back when you were seeing shit like Faces of Death and BME Pain Olympics on YouTube back then, and Two Girls, One Cup, when that shit was... It was the Wild West back then.
Putrid sex object.
Yes, exactly. You were seeing like one man, one horse.
The glass sitting video.
Oh God,
there was
some very very bad shit, and I think in the early days of YouTube, it could have taken off, and it could have given an outlet for a bunch of ECW fans just be like too extreme for TV. That could have been the tagline: ECW, too extreme for TV. And they could have posted it on YouTube. They could have and that's the thing. You could have eaten a loss on that for a while, but eventually the money would start rolling in.
Oh yeah.
And then God. Anyway, this is all like in the ether and just like stuff in the past, but unfortunately, this is just where we are. Yeah. And ECW in 2008 was not good. And this right here, I remember this happening. This was
notorious backstage interaction with ECW icon Sabu, and following the interaction, fans were left gobsmacked. McMahon would address Sabu by saying, "Well, I'll be damned. I thought I was in Texas. Hell, I'm not in Texas. I'm in Afghanistan. Hey boys, check it out. Here's a member of the Taliban." There are no words to accurately describe what McMahon was thinking when he made these comments, and quite frankly there was no excuse, even in 2007, for a segment of this nature to air on WWE television. Number 8. Jinder Mahal's racism. Now, not every WWE moment that has aged horribly occurred decades ago. One infamous moment took place in 2017, and it saw Jinder Mahal taking part in one of the most controversial and tested segments in the modern era. In a segment on SmackDown, Mahal would mock Shinsuke Nakamura's accent, and he would even compare the decorated star to Mr. Miyagi. Fans were quite speechless that this was taking place in 2017, and the backlash was so severe that WWE were forced to release an official statement. Just like many other TV shows or movies, WWE creates programming with fictional personalities that cover real-world issues and sensitive subjects. As a producer of such TV shows, WWE Corporate is committed to embracing and celebrating individuals from all backgrounds, as demonstrated by the diversity of our employees, performers, and fans worldwide. Yeah, it really wasn't a good look for WWE.
But
no, and here's the thing with it. That's pretty tame compared to some of the stuff I've seen.
I don't think that's if Jinder Mahal was like the big baby face of the time or something. Like, they're heels.
Yeah.
Heels are supposed to be hated.
Yes.
Despicable. Just every degenerate, awful, cheating, lying, stealing, crummy thing you could do.
And here's the thing. If
that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and if Jinder Mahal would have gone off base and said that without approval from Shinsuke Nakamura, I guarantee you they asked Nakamura, be like, would it be okay if he mocked your accent and compared you to Mr. Miyagi?
But even if he didn't, he's not a mark. So he's not going to take offense to it.
No.
It wouldn't be no different than like Warner Brothers having to apologize for a World War II movie. We understand that Hitler offends people, but Hitler was a part of World War II and we had to have a Hitler in the movie. Like, everybody knows that that's the bad guy. Everybody knows that Jinder Mahal was a heel. It's like, why should the company apologize for Jinder Mahal when Jinder Mahal is a bad guy in a show who does bad things?
It's because, again, this is WWE.
It's a double standard for wrestling.
Yeah, WWE trying to placate, and if the backlash online is enough, and what I mean by that is if the outrage mob, and y'all know who I'm talking about, the people who get offended, just wake up with their head jumping off the pillow and be like, how can I be offended on someone else's behalf today? Guarantee you these were a lot of pissed off white women looking to be angry about something, and they were just like, let's support Shinsuke Nakamura, when Shinsuke Nakamura himself did not have a problem with it. If Shinsuke Nakamura would have had a problem with it, then I would say, okay, outrage is merited. But no, it's just
don't do the segment, dude.
Online. Yeah,
don't do the segment. Don't do it. If you don't want to take a move,
if you don't want to
be a part of a segment, anything in wrestling, you can say I can't do that.
Yeah, it's like Sami Zayn opting out of a lot of the Saudi shows early on because he was against Saudi Arabia because of what they did to the Syrians,
right.
His people, his heritage. And eventually he came around to it because I think eventually, I'm not going to say the money didn't have anything to do with it, but eventually Sammy started appearing on those shows, and he's a big hit. He's a big hit now because of, he's a Muslim. He's 100% a Muslim, and he goes to Mecca to pray, just be there among and do the circle around the
the Dome of the Rock and all that.
Yeah, drink from the well of Zamzam, pray on Mount Arafat, whatever spiritual journey he needs to go on, and he's and he can do that, and having that him be a part of it now is that much bigger now, because it's a sign that, hey, Sammy is coming around to actually wanting to be a part of these shows at his discretion, at his choice. But
also in the theater of professional wrestling, heels are not supposed to do things that are good PR or make people happy. It's just not.
Yeah.
If you're offended by a heel, then they're doing a good job.
Also, the Jinder Mahal thing, that one, that whole title reign was a mess because bet you couldn't tell WWE was trying to sell their product in India. Bet you couldn't tell that. Wink. But here's the problem. He was a heel. Why would you make a heel the hero that goes over to India and tries to appeal to the Indian audience? Why? Makes no sense.
Pretty weird. But
I will say this. There was one positive thing about Jinder Mahal during that whole era. His entrance, the blackout treatment, and then the graphic following him on the ground, and then he lifts the belt up and the whole arena lights up. That was killer.
And
that
his work ethic, his ring work got better. Everything about Jinder Mahal got better.
Yes. It's just the booking was so
horrible.
Bad.
Yeah.
Number 7, the 1999 Royal Rumble. Due to contemporary information about CTE, WWE have stopped chair shots to the head.
Is this the Mick Foley?
WWE are so strict
so,
on
yeah.
this policy that they're even reluctant to show archive footage featuring the spot, and this has created problems when highlighting one of their most infamous matches of the Attitude Era. The
I Quit match.
Royal Rumble featured The Rock and Mankind colliding in an I Quit match, and the match featuring The Rock brutalizing Mankind when sinister chair shots to the head time and time again was unpleasant viewing. Now, this type of physicality...
To the front of the head, to the back of the head, everywhere.
It's bad.
And how many chair shots was it?
I don't know.
8 or 9.
It was a ton.
8 or 9.
I think it's way more.
Shots.
I think it's way more than that.
Would never be allowed on WWE programming today, which is without a doubt the right policy. Unfortunately for WWE, the match itself was documented on the Beyond the Mat documentary,
I remember
which
that.
means footage of the chair shots often pop up when new fans watch the documentary for the first time, and it always leads to some criticism being directed towards WWE.
And the other thing, too, is Mick's family was there.
Yeah.
His wife and kids were there watching this man get
He called it.
Huh?
Mick asked for all this shit.
Yeah.
Okay? And there are people to blame for this, and they have all since said that they regret it.
Can we really, not... okay, Mick Foley in the 90s was an absolute madman. Hell in a Cell, the Boiler Room matches. He in terms of stunt and spectacle, you will not find anyone who has wowed more people and dropped more jaws than Mick Foley in the 90s with his gimmicks.
Insane.
Yes. And that Royal Rumble match right there, I think, was Mick Foley's notice, maybe I shouldn't do stuff like this as much anymore.
Hell no.
And that's when he calmed down a little bit. And then he went on his big final run in 2000, 2001, whenever he did those big matches with Triple H. The Royal Rumble one with the street fight, which was awesome. The Hell in a Cell match at No Way Out. And then finally his WrestleMania main event in 2000. Yeah, it was great. It was 2000, 2001. And it was so good seeing him finally get over without having to do ridiculous shit like this.
Thank God.
Time. Yeah.
Number 6, Kerwin White.
Oh.
There have been some characters and gimmicks in WWE that have aged like milk. One of these gimmicks is the gimmick of Kerwin White. In 2005, WWE would rebrand Chavo Guerrero as Kerwin White. This gimmick saw Guerrero dye his hair blonde and denounce his Hispanic heritage. Most of the content of the character, particularly during the promos, crossed the line, as Guerrero would often make questionable comments towards black members of the roster. The gimmick, though, was atrocious, and it failed to get over as the fans had no interest in seeing the gimmick on TV.
I guarantee you, don't go back and look at Eddie Guerrero's old stuff when he was, talking shit about Mexico. Literally, this guy came out wearing American, pants and was, one of the biggest heels in Mexico for the longest time. He's like, I'm not from Mexico. I'm from America. Yeah. I'm the Texan. And then, and this is Eddie. And regaled Mount Rushmore, worshipped Eddie Guerrero.
One of the greatest heels ever.
Yes. And
without a doubt.
Yeah, and the dude in Mexico talked mad shit about Mexico and was dressed and was pretending to be ultra American, although Eddie, more than a proud Mexican wrestler.
Right.
More than proud of his heritage. And
in reality.
In reality. Yeah. But in his heel mode, he was not afraid to go above and beyond.
It was a great heel.
The thing about it is, it worked for Eddie because Eddie made it work and it was believable. This fell flat because just look at this.
It's manufactured bullshit.
It is. It's what you would. It's like a bad Futurama skit of Judge Whitey.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
The gimmick almost went even further as Guerrero wore a white sheet to the ring, and this was going to imply that Guerrero was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. But thankfully, this idea never materialized. Yes. Number 5.
Also, his caddy there was Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
The racist storyline. WWE couldn't just book a tradition.
This would have been completely forgiven and merited if Booker T would have won. If Booker T would have won this match. This was Booker's time to go over.
Yeah,
this
right.
was Booker's moment. WrestleMania 19, this rivalry against Triple H, the you people and people like you just aren't meant to be at the top. If this right here would have been Booker's moment to go over and have him go on a run to either SummerSlam or Survivor Series.
But he was a WCW guy.
Exactly. And Vince didn't want to put him over, even though he's one of the most talented human beings ever to set foot
one of the
in
greatest
ring.
ever. Yeah.
Oh, in terms of just making people believe in him, being a good, he can pull off the heel stuff and he can pull off good. Dude, his King Booker stuff was great. Yeah. This was late in his career.
Booker.
But back in Harlem Heat when he was on fire.
One of my favorite tag teams in WCW. I was a huge WCW guy.
Yeah.
And I love I was like, here it goes. Because those guys were fucking huge.
Oh yeah,
and could wrestle.
Book is 6'3". People forget how big Booker is. He's 6'3". Stevie Ray's 6'5", and is like 240 pounds and can move like a freaking can leap like a gazelle and can absolutely move and do everything that you need to. And he's not clumsy about it.
Yeah,
he is nimble. He is like athletic as hell, and he's also killer on the mic too.
They had everything.
Yeah, dude. And the thing is, Booker. I remember the match. I remember the match it was that made me a huge Booker T fan. It was them versus Ming and the Barbarian, and it was a big thing where Stevie Ray was in the ring for so long and was getting beat down, and then Ming came in, put him in the Tongan death grip, and then Stevie was able to get out of it somehow, and then goes over, hot tag, Book comes in and just starts going off, man. I'd never seen anyone with like spinning hook kicks, leaping axe handle kicks to the back of the head, power slams, like gorilla press and all that. I was like, dude, this guy's a beast.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the match, Ming locks in the Tongan death grip again, and then that was it. And of course, funny enough, I actually met the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Super freaking cool dude, and also
he thought we were crazy, the White Claw Outlaws.
Of course he did.
You boys crazy.
You're crazy.
You boys crazy.
Traditional good guy versus bad guy match when booking Booker T versus Triple H at WrestleMania 19. Instead of the traditional approach to the storytelling selling the world title matchup, they decided to create one of the most controversial storylines of all time, as the storyline had racial undertones throughout which offended the fan base and made them completely disconnected from the product. In one particular promo during the build, Triple H would declare, "I think you're a little bit confused about your role in life here. You're gonna get to WrestleMania, but the fact is, Booker, somebody like you doesn't get to be a world champion. People like you don't deserve it. That's reserved for people like me." That's where the confusion is. You're not here to be a competitor, you're here to be an entertainer. That's what you do, you entertain people. Hell, you entertain me all the time. Go ahead, do a little dance for me. Go ahead, go give me one of those spinneroonies. Entertain me. That's your job. Don't be embarrassed, you're here to make people like me laugh, with your nappy hair and your suckers. The segments and promos...
You see, if Book would have won here, if Booker T would have won and showed up Triple H, if Triple H would not have just put down his golden shovel, because the Reign of Terror right here, people talk about John Cena, this one I would argue was just as bad, if not worse. Triple H, whenever he had a belt on, he was it. If you got a win over him, you had to do something crazy to get a win over him. And I will say this, he's a better booker than he was a champion, because as a booker, he knows how to format stuff and put stuff in a good way. As a champion, I don't lose. Period. And it was partly because of favoritism, because of McMahon, but also Trips had a lot of power because of his connections backstage into gorilla position and everything. But if Booker would have won here, this would have all been merited. And then that way Book could have come out the next day with the belt on his shoulders, be like, someone like me ain't a competitor, huh? I beg to differ. Yeah, and Book could have tore it up. And then Trips could have come out, challenged him to a rematch at Backlash, and then Book would have gone over again. And then Survivor Series could have rolled around, and there could have been an elimination style match, and then Booker would have got cheated out of it. Trips or someone else could have got the belt. But lo and behold, this is all in the past. This is over 20 years ago now, dude. I think it's 20 years.
Long ass time ago.
Yeah, 2022 or 2002. Dude.
During the build seemed to get worse and worse as Triple H would treat Booker in a despicable way. They refused to change the direction of the storyline. The natural conclusion to the offensive storyline was Booker overcoming the game and defeating him on the grandest stage of WrestleMania. But WWE made the questionable decision to have Triple H win the match. Despite the match taking place at WrestleMania and featuring two certified legends, the match is rarely mentioned by WWE. They clearly want to try and act like the storyline never happened, as it's certainly a storyline that should have never ever been pitched, never mind been put on TV. Number 4.
Not only that, but there was a perfect time for like a huge crowd popping moment. Whenever Trips gives him the pedigree, and it took him, I think it was like 7 seconds to crawl over to Booker and put his arm over him. I think right then and there, boom, kick out, 99 out of 100, and right there, that's the comeback. Booker wins 1, 2, 3, game over.
Place explodes.
Vince McMahon uses the N-word.
Right.
Knew it! Yeah. Knew this one would be on here.
Vince McMahon decided to book himself in a segment where he proudly used the N-word. McMahon would take part in a promo with John Cena, and to close the promo, McMahon would refer to Cena as the N-word. McMahon would then walk past Booker T and Sharmell in one of the most tasteless segments WWE have ever delivered.
Tell me he did not just say that.
The segment doesn't hold up, but in a bizarre fashion, he tries to justify the segment.
Well, of course
by saying
he does.
It was a different time and a different place. Now, come on, this is 2005. Really wasn't a different time and place. But Pritchard said, I don't think it holds up well. Well, I think there were people whose opinions were asked, and again, it's just a different time and a different place where you did different things that were not things that hold up. And I go back and I'm into the Alfred Hitchcock hour now, taping it every single night. You sit there and you watch some of those things on television of men just basically slapping the ish out of women back and forth as if it was just another day at the office.
Dude, Kevin Owens super kicked a woman and gave her a package pile driver on like Ring of Honor TV. This is like 2010.
This is not, this is a whole other thing. Bruce Pritchard likes to talk out of both sides of his mouth, and he also likes to sugarcoat his shortcomings.
I respect.
He will give you a honest opinion on things that don't involve him, but as soon as he's involved in something, there's an excuse, there's whatever. This is not an apology.
No, it's not.
This is not a we fucked up. This is, it didn't age well. Yeah, or are you going to say next, like, the Holocaust didn't age well? Like, what the fuck? If you do wrong, you do wrong.
And you admit to it.
If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just time has a way of making things cringeworthy. Again, different time, different place, different mentality. Number 3, the use of blackface. WWE is a documentary
many times
allowing talent to use blackface.
Yeah.
The first notable instance of this occurred when Roddy Piper, who wore half blackface for his feud with Bad News Brown. Fast forward to the Attitude Era, blackface would be incorporated into a segment once again when X-Pac impersonated Mark Henry. And it's insane that WWE believed that this was a smart idea. Now, it's worth noting that during an interview with Uproxx, X-Pac did admit how much he regretted doing it for the segment, which was more of an apology than WWE as an organization have ever offered over the years. It would also be used for Goldust during a match with Flash Funk. Goldust was going through an identity crisis, so they made the decision to paint his face to supposedly represent the inner conflict. Number 2, the WrestleMania 20 main event.
Oh, Brock and fucking Goldberg. Now, admittedly, there are 2 matches that happened much later on.
Yeah.
Much better because they were much shorter, and gotta be honest, it looked like they beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And WrestleMania 20 was to be the biggest event ever. However, due to Chris...
Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. This was the last match of the night. I remember that now. I thought they were going to talk about Brock and Goldberg. Damn. But this, now that I think about it, Benoit going over and Eddie hugging him in the middle of the ring, and within 3 years, both men would be dead.
Yep.
One is revered as one of the greatest ever. The other's forgotten about.
Chris Benoit's actions in 2007, the show is rarely mentioned. The main event of the show featured Benoit winning the world title in a triple threat match, and then the show went off the air with Benoit celebrating with his family. WWE have tried to revise history when it comes to WrestleMania 20, and when the show is discussed in documentaries or publications of any kind, the Kane vs. Taker and John Cena vs. Big Show matches are usually the only 2 matches that are ever mentioned. On the network, the Benoit match is still featured, but his celebration with his family has been completely removed, and instead the show simply ends with Benoit celebrating with Eddie Guerrero before posing on the turnbuckle as the show fades out. And number 1, the Chris Benoit Tribute Show.
I saw this live. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, what happened? What happened? And then upon hearing what actually happened, I was like, what the hell was that whole show about, man? What the hell?
Now, speaking of Benoit, when WWE found out that Benoit and his family had passed, they dedicated an episode of Raw to Benoit's memory. Raw was turned into a tribute show, and it featured McMahon as well as top WWE talent paying tribute to Chris Benoit. The truth, though, would soon surface.
But then you saw did you see the William Regal one where he talked about it? Where he didn't say anything really positive about Chris. He just said, I know that there's a situation developing with the Benoit family, and I just want to say I hope everyone is... But you could tell he knew something was
knew
wrong.
more.
He knew more about it.
This in relation to what Benoit had actually done, and WWE were then forced to distance themselves completely. They just dedicated a tribute show to a man who committed the most unforgivable act, and they were quick to erase the show from the history books. In countries where Raw aired on delay, a new show was sent to them which featured WWE highlights from the past calendar year. In relation to the WWE Network, the show has been replaced by a Best of WWE compilation. There's obviously no mention of Benoit on the show in any capacity. But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE moments that have aged horribly. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.
You know, I will say one thing. Out of the fallout of the Chris Benoit situation, David has gotten one of the worst treatments by the wrestling industry.
Oh, yeah.
Up until recently. Up until, I would say, around 2019, 2018.
Yeah. David
Benoit was basically treated as though he didn't exist.
Yeah. It's bullshit.
It is. And David did nothing
He was
wrong.
a victim.
Yes.
He's a victim of this.
He lost his little brother, his father, and a woman who he considered
a parent.
Yeah, like his like Nancy was not his blood mother, but he loved her regardless. Yeah. But just like imagine waking up one day and knowing that not only your dad and your little brother and your secondary mother are all gone, and it was your father, the man that you idolized,
who is also gone,
who did it.
Confliction, I mean, there's got to be many number of horrible emotional and mental states that you go into.
Dude, he told, on the Dark Side of the Ring, the first thing he did, the cop that told it to him, he punched the cop in the chest and said he didn't believe him. He thought he was it's like he thought it was a sick prank, and the cop actually had to take him into the other room and make him realize, no, this is real. This is happening. This is right now.
Yeah.
And he didn't want the kid to get any illusions that something. And I think in truth that's a better way to go about it than pretending that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like how WWE has pretended for the last 15, 16 years. By no means do I believe Chris Benoit does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
No.
I don't. I agree with Chris Jericho on this. The man is one of the greatest in-ring workers ever to lace up a pair of boots. And I think people who want to look at his work rate and look at what he did in the ring, yes. But as a human being and as something, if Chris would have just ended his own life, if he would have just ended himself, he would be up there with Eddie. He would be up there with Eddie Guerrero and seen as a wrestling hero, a wrestling icon. But that's not what happened. And Chris does not deserve to be in any wrestling Hall of Fame, in my opinion, because not only do you have to be an exemplary wrestler, but you have to be at least a decent human being. Because
you can't be a serial murderer.
No.
And you are at the point where you start killing multiple people.
And then, of course,
or just a horrible family annihilator.
And that's why I think, Snuka, in some ways, it should be removed from, the Hall of Fame.
He killed a lady.
Yeah, he killed Nancy Argentino. He killed... and she's dead because of him. And I think that you can look back on Jimmy Snuka, the high flying dude who wowed people for years and years, but
that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
whenever
a murderer.
Someone dies. When the moment a body hits the floor, I say this all the time. People talk about the code of silence and certain areas and all this and all that. It's I can understand if it was drug related stuff or a car accident. or something that like a crime, like getting in a fight with somebody and beating them, like where they like get a black eye or lose a tooth or something,
or
like that.
Scott Hall's situation where he had to defend himself.
Yes, that's another.
He killed someone, but it was in self-defense, and it haunted Scott Hall for his entire life. He never got over it.
He never dealt with it. And the dude pulled a gun on him. That's what people forget. The dude reached back, pulled a gun out of his waistband.
And he still regrets it.
Yeah.
Or did regret it to the day he died.
Yes.
It bothered him.
And Scott, Scott is a person I do believe belongs in the Hall of Fame
because
of his work rate and everything. And also his emotional recovery for a good portion of it near the end. Because of Diamond Dallas Page, we got 7 more years of Scott Hall.
Without a doubt.
That's how I look at it. And Scott Hall, I think, even without that, would have been in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But Diamond Dallas Page, once again, a wrestling savior in his own right. Just say like Jake the Snake Roberts. He tried to help Vader too. That's another one that people forget. Vader tried to go to Page to get help, but Vader just couldn't stick with it.
It was too late.
Yeah.
But Benoit is on the way other end of the spectrum.
Yes.
He is somebody who committed just the most heinous act imaginable on his own family.
Yes.
And for that, I mean, you're banished to the Shadow Realm, dude.
You can be mentioned by wrestling purists, and like people be like, "Look at how Benoit did this move here. Look at how Benoit did this like gut wrench, like this gut wrench power slam. Look at how he did like the rolling German suplexes, which were awesome. Look at how he copied Eddie's like Three Amigos like vertical suplexes.
Yep.
That stuff, yes, but in terms of me looking at him as a good human being, I'm never going to see him as a good human being. I'm going to see him as a great wrestler.
I'm disgusted.
I am.
Benoit.
I am.
As a wrestling fan and a wrestler myself, it is a bad stain, a negative look on wrestling every single way around.
It is.
It almost single-handedly killed the business.
Sad but true.
I mean,
it did. It kneecapped the business in a lot of ways that still hasn't recovered.
I agree.
And the business, I think, can heal and get better from it.
It is. I think it is.
It is, and it's taken almost 15 years.
Well, I mean, Jesus Christ, when you have something horrific associated with it, they claim that wrestling's the cause of it and all this shit. Of course, dude.
Yeah.
Of course. But you tell me that Benoit did what he did, yet Terry Funk and Mick Foley aren't out here doing this shit. That was his choice, his thing, his issues alone that can't be reflected on everybody else.
No, that's an illogical fallacy. On every front, and people need to stop that. But all right, anyway, we need to get out of here before it gets too late.
It's true.
And that's gonna do it. So until next time, I'm Nate.
I'm Chad.
Y'all be good people. Check out more from WrestleMania by clicking their name in the title of the video, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.